Welcome to part 3 of A Beginner's Guide to Python. Okay, so let's talk about arrays. So an array or a list, so we could create something called an array. So for instance, we could say like that. And what an array is it's a sort of like collection of different things. So in this case, it's a collection of fruits. And if I want to see a value of a fruit, I can do print, and I can do 0, like that. And what that would print is the first item in an array, because an array is 0 indexed. So the first value is 0, second value is 1, third value is 2, fourth value is 3. So if I run this now, we don't need the var. Run that again. You can see apples, and if I want to print out oranges, so that's how you access the elements in an array. Now if I wanted to show all the elements in the array, what I can do is type for fruit in fruits, and you see it prints apples, bananas, oranges, lemons. And so basically what that's doing is saying for every value in fruits, and we'll assign it to the word fruit, print it. So you can see you can iterate for a whole load of items at once. Now an array doesn't just have to be words like this. We can make an array of numbers. And we can loop as we did before. And what we can do is print numbers I. So it's going to fit. So I starts at 0, so it's print 1. Then it's going to be 1, which is going to be the second one along. Then 2, which is the third one along. 3, which is the fourth one along, and so on. And when I run this, and the mistake I've made here is we need to not choose numbers here, because numbers is a list, not an integer. What I want is the length of numbers. So you can see the length of numbers is 6. So len numbers returns the number 6, or however long that is. And you see now it's printed out the list. You can print out the reverse numbers. So if I wanted the second to last number, what I would do is print numbers minus 2. And you see that's printed out 23, which is the second to last number. So you can go back the way, or you can go forward the way. If I want to, I can change the value of a number in the list. So I can say numbers 2 equals 14. So if I put that here, you now see it says 1, 3, and the 5's been changed to a 14 because 0, 1, 2, and then 40, 23, 19. If I want to add an element to the end of the list, what I can do is numbers.append and say it was 77 like that. And you can see it's now printed out the number 77 on the end. If I want to insert something in the middle of the list, I can do numbers.insert, and we've got to say where we want to insert it. So let's put it 0, 1, 2, so we're going to say 3, and then we're going to say what value it's going to be. Let's say 36. One, 3, 14, because change that, and then 36 goes in the middle of 5 and 40. So you can see that's printed there. I could have two lists of numbers. Like that, and what I can do is numbers.extend more numbers like that, and it should add 15, 19 and 22 to the end, and it does. We can remove elements from an array, so we can do numbers.remove, and what this does, it removes anything with a specific value. So in this case I'm going to remove number 40 from the list. This is not index 40, this is number 40. You see 40 is no longer displayed. If I actually want to take a number from the list and not have it anymore, what I can do is, instead of removing, I can do pop. And we can say which index we want, 0, 1, 2. Let's say, well, we're going to have, let's do number 2 because we haven't done anything to that. So our number 14 is not going to be there anymore. But what we can say is result equals I think that was a bit too much. Let's take some of this out. Let's do this. So we're back to the original list 135, and we're going to pop number 2 out. And of course this shouldn't be here, it should be there. We want to do it at the end of the list. So what we've got is 1, 3, 5's been popped, so it goes there, so it does 40 instead. 23 goes there. We've got 19, and the result was the one we popped out, so that one goes last now. So when you pop something, it basically says take that out. That's what it's doing there, but it's returning it into result so you can use it for something else. If you just want to delete a number, you just do del numbers and number 2, and that will get rid of number 5, because 0, 1, 2, that's the number 2 index. Say I wanted 3 of the numbers from the list, what I can do is we can slice the numbers. So how we do that is say we wanted 3, 5 and 40, so we do 1 to 3 like that. So if I run that now, you'll still get the same result as before, 1, 3, 5, 40, 23, 19. What we can also do is for I in range like that. So 1, 3, 5, 40, 23, and then we've got 3 and 5. It doesn't include the last one, so if I wanted the last one I'd have to do that. So when you say 1 to 4, you're saying 1, 2, 3, but don't include 4. If I want, I can print every other number in the list. The way I do that is I can create a variable called results, and we can do numbers colon colon 2 like that. And then we can just print results. And we'll take this out because we don't need this at this moment in time. And you can see it's got me a list of 1, 5 and 23. So results is a list. And you can print a list out as it is. So if I want to, I can have names and I can just print names like this, and it can print out your names as follows. Say I wanted to see if the name Bob is in the list, I can say if Bob in names, print yes, Bob is in the list. So if I take that out now and say Graham instead, it should print nothing. And you see it doesn't. And the last thing we're going to do is find the index of a item. So we know Bob's in the list, so what we're going to do is print this. So if we put Bob back in, it should return the number 1. It does. If we put Graham back, and put Bob at the end, you see the index changes. 0, 1, 2, 3, Bob. So we can now put all this together to make one useful list. So imagine we've got this list of numbers. Okay. And say you want to find the largest number in that list. What we can do is for I in range length of numbers, and we're going to set a value called var max. Don't know why I keep using var, we don't need var, this is Python. And so we're going to put an if numbers I is greater than max equals numbers I. And then at the end we can print max, the largest number is max. So what this is going to do, it's going to go through this list. It assumes all numbers are positive because we've set max to equal 0, but it's going to go through the first number. Is 1 bigger than 0? Yes it is. Set max equal to 1. It's then going to go, is 15 greater than max? Max is now 1, so 15 is greater than max, so yes it is. Then 23, is it greater than max? Yes it is. 12, is it greater than max? No it isn't. So it's going to move on to the next one, 67. So at the end, the number we should get is 83, which is correct. And what if you want to get the average? We need to set a total, a running total, and what we're going to do here is plus equals numbers I, and then we can say print the average is, and we can make an average field, and we'll say average equals total divided by length of numbers. So we've added all the numbers together and then we divide it by the number of items in the list. Like that. And if you want it to be an integer, the average is 26. So this is a real world sort of thing. Like if you get a whole list of numbers, you can find the largest, you can create an average, and it shows how for loops work. And we can extend this as follows. We can make numbers So what we're doing here is we created an empty list and we're going to ask the user to enter numbers, and if they enter the word stop, it's going to break out and then it's going to work out the average and the largest number that was entered, and it's also going to, if they enter a number, it's going to append it to the list. So let's do this in action. It's got no error handling, so if they enter anything other than a number, it will break. And of course that should be a double equals. So I've changed the loop slightly, so it's while true, so it's going to continue forever. And then we're going to take the value like that, value equals input, and if value equals stop, break, and then append the number to it. and I'm not doing very well in this example, forgotten the colon on the end. Oh, we've got a colon on the end of there that we don't want. So let's add 5, 15, 23, 2, 14. The largest number is 92 and the average is 19. And that is how lists and arrays work within Python. Let's talk about program flow and functions. Now, functions are the backbone of any programming language. And so we're going to create a new file and we're going to save it as functions. And what a function does, it lets you repeat a whole section of code again and again just by calling the name of the function. For instance, let's call the function add, and it's going to take in two numbers, A and B, like that. And what it's going to do is just return A plus B, like that. And then we're going to do one for subtract. Then again, take two numbers, and this time it's going to turn A minus B. And then we're going to create one called multiply. A multiplied by B. And finally, we'll do one called divide. And the thing with Python is everything's structured so that the tabs mean something. So the very first line is definition of the function, and everything that's tabbed one thing in here will be the code for that function. So if I put print will add A to B, then it will run this line and this line as well for the add statement. So now what I can do is we can use our input that we used earlier, A equals int input into a number, B equals int input into another number, and then we can say print add A comma B, and that's going to call that function and it's going to add the two numbers together. So 5, 6, and you get 11. And we can do the same for the other functions. So 15 at 25 is 40, 15 take 25 is minus 10, 15 times 25 is 375, and 15 divided 25 is 0.6. So you can see here this is the basics of a function. Now a function doesn't have to return anything at all. It can just be a function. So we could say greet user, and it's going to take in a name, and we're going to just put that. So down here, like that. And you can see it's called that, it hasn't returned anything, it's just printed the statement out. Now we could use this further to give some instructions to the user. And you can see it gives you more context. Now you can see this here is quite messy because you've got this int input stuff. So what we could do is have a function get number, and it's not going to take any values at all. But what it's going to do is return int input, enter a number. Like that. So instead of this, we can just say get number. And this can be get number. And that works. And we can use this to validate their numbers as well. So instead of what we were doing before, we can do while true, we can see value equals input enter a number. So now we're validating the input. So what's going to happen here is we know the while true loop does something continuously until you break out of it. And what we're saying is try, and then the value equals input a number and try and convert it to an int. If it works, it's going to break out of the loop. If it doesn't, it's going to go into here and it's going to say you must enter a number. And then we run this. So enter a number. If I put B, it says you must enter a number. F, enter a number 5, 6, and we have an error. So we haven't actually returned the value. So what we should do here instead we should do return value. And you can see it's done it. Now it's a bit messy because we've got the return value, so we're returning whilst in a loop. You could break out of the loop and do your return here, but this works. That is the end of part 3. Stay tuned for the 4th part of the beginner's guide to Python.